Hi everyone, this is Mason Winfield in late July with another episode of Psi-Friday with Mason. Today we are focusing on a very timely subject, the Celtic holiday/festival called Lughnasadh, and its British name is Lammas. And the calendar date is the last evening of July and the following day. And it is a very old festival. We're not positive how old it is, but it's one of the four major Celtic festivals. And Lughnasadh has kind of an interesting background. I mean, Halloween, we don't know what started it. May Eve, Beltane, we don't know what started that. Imbolc, we don't know what started that. That's the February festival. Lughnasadh, first of all, the name means, or probably means, Lu's gathering. And Lu was the sun god for many Celtic people. And the name Lu, it's a pretty much of a pan-Indo-European term. It survives in the Roman word for light, lux, English words lucent, translucent, the first name Lucas, so it's Lucifer, another name for the devil, the light bearer. So it is a word that stands for the solar god, which for major ancient societies, that's pretty much top dog. There is some theory out there that Lughnasadh, the harvest festival, may have been invented and created deliberately to honor a battle, an exploit. In 279 BC, a massive army of Celtic warriors, they were like land Vikings. They're on their way for loot, new land, and they march through the Balkans into Greece. And you know, this is about 40 years after the death of Alexander the Great, and his empire was fragmenting. I mean, you wouldn't have attacked Alexander the Great during his day. That was considered a no-no. But yet, years later, empire's fragmenting, here come the Celts. And they invaded Greece, 279 BC. They had some great successes. And they were eventually beaten back. But their leader was said to have been a guy named Brennus. And Brennus is another way of saying Bran, which means the crow. And you know, in like around, 380 BC, Rome itself was sacked. Rome was destroyed by a Celtic army, and their leader was named Brennus. And there has been some conjecture that this is an honorific title. It means crow, that it's the honorific title of the great war leader. Whatever his real name was, now he's Brennus. But at any rate, I believe it was a French scholar named Marie-Louise Siostet, 1900 to 1940, who wrote this marvelous little book called Gods and Heroes of the Celts. It was translated by an Irishman named Miles Dillon, a great Celtic scholar. And it's not that big a book, but it is heavy, and it is magnificent. And I believe it was Marie-Louise Siostet who suggested that Lughnasadh was created to honor this invasion of Greece. But there are other people who think it's considerably older than that. I might be one of them. But Lughnasadh, August 1st, it's a celebration of the harvest. And anybody who really wants to take off on it should read Sir James Fraser's The Golden Bough, because he talks about all the Celtic festivals. They're festivals of fire, festivals of rebirth, festivals of death. They're fabulous. But in Ireland, and in Wales, and in parts of England, and in Scotland, Lughnasadh was celebrated. It survives best possibly in Ireland. And they're still doing some really cool stuff on the night of July 31st and August 1st. Among them, climbing hills is very big. The first harvest, celebrating the fruits, the vegetables, that's big. And they've even got this wacky ceremony in County Kerry, which is southwest Ireland, on Lughnasadh, called the Puck Fair. Now, many of you may be familiar with the word puck from Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, this delightful fairy, Puck. And we're not sure that's exactly everything to it, because the Puck Fair, one of the things the young guys do is they run off into the hills and they find a wild goat. And they lasso the thing and bring it in, they put it in a cage, and they leave it there for a day or two. And they have a ceremony where somebody puts a crown on its head. It's the king of the goats, the King Puck. It's really interesting. And Margaret Murray, the great patron of the neo-paganism, neo-Wicca movement, Margaret Murray made a big deal out of the Puck Fair. She thought it was another version of a tribute to the horned god. And as popular as Margaret Murray is, not all the scholars buy it. But anyway, so I want to leave all of you with, once again, the word that we are at a time of year halfway between summer solstice and fall equinox that was very powerful to the ancestors of almost anybody that's got the blood of Europe flowing in them. It is a very potentially powerful night. And I'm going to a party, but I encourage everybody to try to get a little time to yourself on Lughnasadh Eve, Friday, July 31st. Try to get by yourself with a candle, maybe a glass of wine, maybe your journal. Find some meditation. Talk to the ancestors. Talk to the elders. And join us again next week for another episode of Psi-Friday with Mason. Oh, and just let me tell you, next week is going to be a heavy one.